Can we then move to the Patriotic Alliance? Honorable Sauls.
Thank you so much, Chair. I think I want to begin by saying, General, thank you for your service.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. You know, listening to your testimony, you know, you inspire hope. When I think about justice for Jocelyn Smith, Babita Yakoran, Paul Mulifi, Nathaniel Julius, Pamela Mabini, Bawar Fanikerk, my fellow committee member, Honorable Sitole from the IFP, and my cousin, Etienne Langefeld. We're still waiting for justice. So when I hear you, I see you, it inspires hope. But when I sit in this seat, of course, I cannot choose a side. I must be fair. I must question you on things that I need clarity on. But I'm confident, you know, that you will handle it like a master. So let's walk together through my clarity-seeking exercise. Let's start with section 9 of volume 1 that deals with who you are. I'm very interested to know, General, are you related to the anti-apartheid hero, Mkhwanazi riot, Mkhwanazi?
No, I'm not related.
I was going to say, so that means the fighting for justice is in your blood.
He is Mkhwanazi. It might be the blood indeed, but I don't know him.
Yesterday in your testimony, you said the following, open quote, sometimes we do not divulge more on what we are doing as a strategy, close quote. What about that strategy can you share with us here today?
We apply different strategies very different with different cases, honorable member. If we are asking me about what we are busy with in how we are dealing with the challenges that brings us here together in as far as the involvement of the Minister, General Sbia, the Matlalas, the Mkhwanazis, and everything that we're talking about, it's in different folds. On one side, we have the investigation, we have intelligence, and we have a prosecution part of the strategy. Then we have a communication plan that we are putting, that we have, that is unfolding. We are at war with the enemy. At times, Sun Tzu will say to you, do not make the enemy to know what you're busy with. If you are far, make him think you're close. If we are close, we are close, then you must then attack if need be. If we are weak, make him believe that you're strong, and you know, so forth. We cannot tell you exactly what is it in details that we're doing, but what we started doing has helped us to place cases in court. The cases ordinarily they were not going to get there. So we started seeing results in as far as that is concerned. What we did has allowed us to get our case dockets back in KZN, and we're able to service the client in the province. And we have cases now we've registered in KZN to try and deal with the bad things happen. So that's why I'm saying that the strategy will talk about the softer approach on how we're winning this battle. And at the same time, we have the hardcore approach that we're dealing with. We have members running that are currently on training to make sure that they can face whatever may come that we are training. By the use of task force, the TRT, the NIU, and many others, to equip them to be ready for the war that might come. As and when it comes, we are ready as the police to deal with it. We have employed a different strategy to make sure that investigations are not disturbed by mixing the team that is investigating with highly trained members, honorable members. For instance, the special task force in the police, the special forces in the military were never part of our operations, but they are part of this one. It is a level of risk that we have. So once we invite the special task force to an operation of this nature, we better explain to them the threat and let them understand it. And once they understand it, then they help us develop a plan of how we're going to counter it. So as we are executing our strategy, we start seeing results in some instances of the strategy that we're busy with. We cannot necessarily present it for one to know exactly because the enemy is within. We said on the 5th of March in Parliament that the people we're investigating are in that portfolio committee on the 5th of March. I said it on record. You can listen to it. That's why we can't talk much about it, because we know that they are within. And they will take whatever plans you have and they're going to go and counter that. But the honest reality that we know is that we are dealing with dangerous people. We are dealing with people that have got influence in the public. They've got influence in the media space. They can do different things to make you be discouraged. We needed to mitigate against this malicious arrest happening. We needed to mitigate against further arrest, which was the strategy they were employing to neutralize everything, is that send them to court. Then we said, okay, well, let's go directly to this one. As we speak, honorable members, and we can tell you that, I can tell you that the National Commissioner was in the doorstep of prison himself. Not because he did anything wrong, but because it was part of the plan. That the person who wanted to be the head of DPCI, because of his age, he could not be. The minister was frustrated when he came to the panel about that one. The DG will come here and tell you that. And subsequent to that, the next plan B was to arrest this one so this one can be appointed acting. That was the plan. So I couldn't sit back and allow that to happen. And seeing what is actually happening, that we're going to have a government that has been put into position by criminals through criminal means. And although the start will have been controlling their own political party, but the talks amongst them was that the words of a senior police officer says, DPCI is gold. If you get to DPCI, you've got gold. Here we are, some of us saying we're not interested to apply for that post because it's not giving me any financial benefit because I'm already in the same level as DPCI. But the other one says, no, you see something that I don't see. I see gold for being a DPCI head. Simple because we have, as we investigate what we called inquiries, if we suspect that the honorable member might be involved with something, we register an inquiry. There's no case open. We register an inquiry in order to try and establish what is it that we could be part of. And that inquiry allows us to make 205 applications and get records of this, record of that, record until we get the facts, then we register a case. We arrest you. It's provided for. So once you are then given the responsibility of the highest level of an investigation team in the country, where you can decide who to initiate this inquiry against, the likelihood is that when you keep scraping, you're going to find something. No matter how minute that what you get, but you're going to find something. So find them something and then you use it. but not use it to prosecute a person. Use it to blackmail the person. Now that we found something on you, we come in, we present to you and say, here's it. You either do this, if failing which, you go to prison. And that's how they take control of the leadership going forward. So that will have been done in a political party, and they were going to elevate that into the competitors at the political space when we go towards elections, and eventually will match victorious at the end of the day when everyone else votes for them. You'll find people saying that I'm supporting a political party X, not by choice, because that they've got something on him that makes that person to change tune and say, no, I'm supporting this one. We've seen it.
General, we're going to stick to the strategy.
Yes,
and
sir.
we're going to also tap into questions I have around symbolic elements around that strategy. Help me understand.
Yeah.
You also say in your testimony yesterday, speaking on why you were dressed in camouflage, you said, open quote, it is directed specifically to those that are standing in the way of us enforcing the law, which unfortunately they are in a position of authority to stop us, close quote. Take your time, General, and tell us who are they and what are their positions of authority?
I will reflect on those that we suspect in terms of criminal investigation that you're busy with. The Minister of Police, Minister Mchunu, is a position of authority. That's why I write letters of this nature. General Sibia, who's head of the investigations in the police, who has an authority over investigation. As I made an example, that there's a number of dockets involving some of these high-profile criminals in Gauteng that are sitting in his office at the head office. And yet those dockets belong to the provincial commission. But he called for them to go to Pretoria as part of how they work, how they operate. Well, he can argue that they are not in his office, but George General Shibiri in his office and other brigadiers that are work there, if they are honest, they'll tell the truth that yes, in these things are here based on this instruction. There are other individuals that are within the justice system holding a position of authority. Some of them we've mentioned, some of them we have not named them. When we made mention of the ulterior motives of IDEC as an institution, which has caused about the arrest of members, based on a promotion of a person, it's got no justification, or there's no justification that IDEC can present and say, this is a very sophisticated, high crime form of corruption that was envisaged by the legislature when they established this entity. She cannot argue that if she comes in. If she cannot argue that, it leaves nothing else but to conclude that she's using a position of authority to make sure there's a prosecution happening. It's been argued that the referral of complaints of Mr. Adams to IDEC had nothing to do with the content of the case dockets that were registered in Cape Town and in Orlando, but it had all got to do with an interference by police management of the Western Cape, by police management of Gauteng, by the National Commission himself in frustrating the investigation. And that interference happened, according to Mr. Adams, within 3 days. And the minister believed that. Hence, they invited IDEC to come and be part of it. And IDEC never said no to it. They took the dockets. Today, they're still sitting with the docket. They never assessed this docket that this doesn't come closer to our mandate and send it back to where it's supposed to go. or pass it over to IP. They didn't do that. They still have the dockets. So here they are as IDEC and the head of IDEC that are players in this mess. But then when IDEC craft warrants of arrest of the team as part of the plan, they make use of magistrate to sign off this warrant. I'm not a lawyer, but the logic as a lawmaker, if you take the statement that is in that charge sheet of that case docket, this matter is going to court next week, I'm told, on Monday or Tuesday again. You take that, you read it, and you ask yourself whether did this justify the signing of a warrant of arrest for these members by the magistrate. This is before the court, another magistrate. We just didn't mention him, but he's a player in this thick of things. When you look at what Mkhwanazi did back in 2011, 2012, when he stopped the prosecution of Mkhwanazi, and how the prosecutors that were carrying a docket just let it go, then you start realizing that which happened there, and compare it with what is happening now, where the office of the National Director of Prosecution still has players or officials that were part of the Mkhwanazi's time, still working in these offices, still being part of this administration process going forward. It's a position of authority that makes you realize that we have a problem that we have to deal with. So investigate, finalize your investigation, but you won't get any warrant of arrest. So therefore, that case will never see the court. From the police, you are disarmed. Your work ends there. You can't go beyond. So what you do then to make sure that you end up in court and you end up in correctional service? You now have to remove these obstacles in the middle. That is what we are confronted. So when we make this statement and we're making this reference, these are just but some of the individuals that we can point out that I'm sitting before you in Parliament, and all these people are government employees that I'm talking about. And we have evidence to prove. Some of it I've demonstrated before you, that there is no logic for IDEC to go to that extent of arresting people for a mere promotion. And for IDEC to employ a person who does not have a single qualification as an investigator to deal with cases that it was envisaged by the legislature when they established the entity of serious corruption. This is not a serious corruption. How did we get there? They are arresting people for the appointment of a person that says she did not qualify. But the very same investigating team have been parachuted by IDEC from a lower level where they're coming from to the very senior level, jumping 4 or 5 levels to the position that they are holding currently by the same IDEC team. And yet they're investigating someone else on the side. So ethically, the evidence is there for everyone to see. We've been looking at it as a police and we've realized, what do we do to counter this? And the nice thing, the police have got a lot of farms. So we had to retrieve and go to the farm and sit down and calculate and plan and strategize and come back and implement. And that's what we're busy with. While I'm here and there's men and women in blue around the country, they're busy executing the plan as well.
Now let's jump into the symbolism of your strategy.
Yes, sir.
And I'm not claiming it is your strategy. I'm asking whether it is. The subliminal messaging. The July unrest happened in KZN on the 9th of July. Is your choice to do the press briefing in July the 6th in KZN part of the strategy?
No, negative is not.
Coincidental.
Coincidental, the briefing on the 6th is informed by the relief we get as a team from the National Commissioner when he deposed of an affidavit or a statement under oath that says, I did not authorize this criminal act of removing dockets and stopping the investigation and so forth. He gave me that on the 4th of July in Pretoria. So then I must travel back to KZN where I must register this case. The 5th of July is a Friday. No, I beg your pardon, the 4th of July is a Friday, if I'm not mistaken. I traveled back to KZN. The Saturday is the 5th of July. Now, majority of the honorable members love to come to Durban in July. The government of KZN wouldn't want any disturbance of their tourists when they are in the province in July. So I had to respect that on the 5th of July, when I wanted to address South Africans, I must not do that in order not to disrupt here on one side, but on the other side, more importantly, I want the sober citizen to listen to me. So when I talk to them on the Saturday, they are drunk most of them because of what's happening in Durban. So let me not get there on Saturday. And so I call for this gathering to happen on Saturday, and knowing for a fact that they will have woken up just when they are getting their papalas sorted out, I will clear their papalas with this message. And indeed, it reached out and made them sober.
It definitely did. That was a master stroke.
Thank you, sir.
Now, in the apartheid struggle, what did the letters MK stand for? When it relates to the military wing of the revolution against apartheid.
I think it's similar to the one of the political parties that are here in the House of Parliament. It represents the same thing.
What is that?
The military wing of a political party.
What does MK refer to?
Mkhwanazi.
We are still dealing with subliminal messaging. You
Yes.
must help me. Is it true that you used your initials in your witness statement to us for easy reference? NSM, Nhlanhla Sibusiso Mkhwanazi. Is it true?
That is correct, although I did not choose those initials. It's the evidence leaders that decided on those initials. It was not much similar with Madlanga. I did not choose the initials used.
Very interesting, because I wanted to understand. You must now tell me who. For easy reference, in the Madlanga Commission, instead of your initials NSM, it is MK. So I wanted to understand, was it you? You now say it was someone else. Do you know why?
Well, I did not ask them. The evidence leader there is the senior counsel, Molapi, that can be able to assist in explaining how they came about that. Same as this one. Senior counsel is right here in front of us. They can be able to explain how it came about. The coincident, honorable chair members, maybe that I can tell you. Yes, I was born in, some of you know Maritzburg, the township. There's a rural area next to Maritzburg called Pampumuza. That's where I was born. And I grew up in Ashdown Township, as well as in Pendle, a rural area. Ashdown Township, when the fight between IFP and ANC was strong, UDF, it happened in the township. During the day, you pass each other greeting. When the sun goes down, you become enemies. You can't be on the street, you get killed. So the violence was that rough at the time. So when my parents felt that the violence is this rough, they'll ship me to the rural areas in Pendle so that I'm protected from this. And when it's a bit quiet, it'll bring me back. So I ended up changing a lot of schools as I grew up because of that, moving up and down. So I was not necessarily drawn into the politics of things, although there were friends that I lost that I knew at the time, but I was always protected and removed from that. So I never got to be exposed much into what was happening in terms of the violence. Yes, I knew about the MK. We study history at school and we learn about things and we see things. And then I happened to join the service, joining the dawn of democracy. When I joined, I went to the college on the 22nd of June, 1993. When I finished training, I was deployed in Potchefstroom. I started in December. We arrived there in December, middle of the night in Potchefstroom, and I started working there. The Potchefstroom was dominated by, in the main, IFP, which honorable member spoke about earlier in relation to the homelands that were there in the past. So it was Zulu police had armed IFP members with a lot of guns, be it a Nduna is given a gun, be it a protector of the Nduna, he has a gun, and many others. Honorable Ngango might maybe share more details about some of it. But there were too many firearms that the IFP members were in position of. So here I am arriving here and I'm given a task to ensure that there is public order, there is safety. So we arrived and I work for the unit internal stability. And when I get into this unit, I'm confronted, as I experienced when I arrived in Pretoria, in the same room we sleep with the Tsonga speakers, the Pedi speakers. I had no clue about how even to greet in those languages. So I had to adjust there. You get people that end up giving nicknames because it's difficult for them to pronounce your name. Same thing happened in Potchefstroom when I arrived there. One of my commanders, a white guy, could not pronounce Mkhwanazi. Even today, majority of the members in this house, if I ask them to pronounce Mkhwanazi, they will put an A after M. They will say Mkhwanazi, and there's no A, it's Mkhwanazi, MKH. So because of that struggle of pronunciation, he chose the shortcut. He just called me MK. And I'm brand new at the unit. It is December 1993. This unit were camouflage. And in few months down the line, in April, the African National Congress win elections. And here comes this young man dressed in camouflage and is confronted with the situation on the ground where the IFP, majority of them are in the half of the village of the ANC people. This group of about 20 boys of ANC, unarmed, that are confronted by this group of IFP with guns. And one had to act. Unfortunately, my action angered my commanders because my action was against the IFP leadership that were already in the territory of the ANC people without taking political sides. So they got to know me. They got to know that person caused this problem and it caused one of the IFP person to be injured at the time through my action. And then fast forward a few months later, I happened to be in another gathering where a similar fight is happening, area of Trilima, Mvuchini, in those areas. And when we are there, and I'm sitting in this police car in Nyala, I'm not getting out because the place is crowded. I decided to sit inside. I opened the hatch on top and I was standing there. The doors are closed. One of the members asked me to open the door because he wanted to get inside the car. He made a mistake. He's a white guy again. He calls me with a nickname in the center of the IFP, armed people. So he called me by a nickname that when it's pronounced in such a setting, the people on the ground don't believe that it is initials of your surname. They believe that you are a member of a political party. He said, MK, please open the door. Everyone else turned around to look at this MK, and they saw me. And others identify me as a person who has caused trouble a couple of months back. They all came in numbers to that car. I will not explain how I responded to it, but I responded to stay alive. But from that day, I was banned from working in the IFP area in Potchefstroom by my command.
Now,
Because of the first initials of my surname, MK. So they associate me with them controversies. It branded me bad.
now, that could have been a repeat in terms of perception by looking at the files. And I, for one, am very happy that there's no connection. And it is clear that it's not even part of the strategy, the use of the name MK or the letters MK. Mr. Musa Wenkosi, I think it's Tashana, the Kwashana,
Yeah.
Kwashana, who was the reason that the whole process started of the IMC and also the political killings task team. Is his case solved?
His case is in court. That what I could say, there's been successful investigation on the matter. As being under correction, I'm not sure if it's been finalized, but I will just get a confirmation on that. But they were arrested and the matter did go to court.
General, I refer you to page 83, paragraph 275 that you pointed us to the last time. I think it is in NSM 3. You have a diagram there. That diagram has two names out of what is known as the Big Five now. It has the name of the Chief of Staff, it has the name of the Minister, it has the name of Mr. Brown Mkhwanazi, it has the name of Lieutenant General Sibia, and then it has the name of General Kele, the diagram is linking to all of these things that are happening with cartels, etc. Then you have the arrow connecting, and you're saying responsible for the appointment of General Sibia, and you connect General Kwele in the diagram to National Commissioner. But the name of the connected National Commissioner is not mentioned. What is the reason for that? Is their name, or what is the purpose for the entire diagram has names? Of course, we know why the Big Five's names are not there, but the National Commissioner, why is then? What's the reason for there not being a name?
Well, I think there's no deliberate thing. It might have been just a title that we put. The names that we put in here specifically are names of the people that we suspect of the wrongdoing in terms of the crime. You will notice between Lieutenant General Sibia and the reds on the left, we have SAPS runners, DPCI, detectives, Vispol, crime intelligence, forensic service. We do not put names, but we put these categories of disciplines within the organization because we have the names of police officers that are working in this environment, that are facilitating things between General Sibia and these criminal people. So we did not necessarily put their names on it, but because there are many, we for that reason. But for the National Commissioner, the divisional, the crime detection, forensic, the crime intelligence, we didn't necessarily put the names. There are names of a head of crime detection, but she's not been accused of anything wrong. That's why I didn't put her name. We have the name of the divisional commissioner, crime intelligence. He hasn't done anything wrong. That's why we did not put the name. So even the linkage between General Cele and the National Commissioner, what we are putting there in that arrow is an explanation. If you notice, there's a dotted line that says SSA.
Yeah.
Because we are told that SSA provided or enabled General Sibia to be cleared by providing reports that clears the question marks that were asked by the City of Johannesburg. And as a result, then General Sibia was cleared. That's why we have the dotted lines with the SSA to confirm whether has that been signed off by the DG at SSA, or is someone within SSA who had no authority to sign that letter to clear Jaros B and respond to both the City of Johannesburg as well as the National Commission. But when we are having the names on top, is because they are wrong that we see. Gerald Cele, for instance, when you see the link between Gerald Cele and Vusmutket Matlala, it's because there's some racketeering that is happening. Gerald Cele sends Vusmatlala an account number, account details. Vusmatlala deposit money into a private account, not Cele's account, someone else's account. He puts money to that account and he sends a proof to Cele. Cele acknowledged the receipt of that. And then there's other further communication. That's why I'm saying the communication between them is not about the arrest date. It's a communication we see dating back to 2024. There's criminality there that we need to investigate. Who was this money for? Now we're going to that bank account to see whether this money moved by Vus into that account. Did it end with that account, or did it move from that account back to Cele somehow? That's why there's a target there. So it's not a target of appointment per se, but it's the name because of that line. We even wrote the communication dating back to December 2024. So it is not the number of calls that was spoken about in the media. It's what we picked up as we're investigating. You'll notice we also on the right side of the very same graph, we have these agents of misinformation that we did not put their names. Mm-hmm. We have the IPID, IDEC, and IGI. We did not put their names, although we know them because more than one player within those entities. But we know that these entities are the enabler of the wrong, not the entity as a whole, but some individuals within. That's why we flag them like that, because it's a place of interest. It's a web that we put up together, the chart that we made out to say, who are we focusing on when we are dealing with this chaos? And these are the main people we are focusing on. And you'll ask yourself, we talk here about some MPs that are part of this chaos. And we find those MPs being part of the black and white bottom right corner. That's where they play, most of them.
General, you testified that the dockets that was moved was a missed target. The target was actually General Khumalo because of what you called, I think, the Gauteng project.
Counterintelligence ops.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Please explain, what is their plan with General Khumalo?
The plan is to get him out of the service. If the National Commissioner were to transfer General Khumalo out of crime intelligence today and send him to a province somewhere where he's not going to disturb crime intelligence and this investigation, I believe they'll leave him alone.
So the attempt is to get him removed.
The plan is always about getting him out. Put whatever pressure you can through parliamentarians, through the media, and make this man a bad man so that you get him out of the office.
So it wasn't about the dockets. They only realized later, after having the dockets, that it wasn't what they were looking for in the dockets. And then the target shifted.
I said earlier when I started, the target on Khumalo has always been about the reforms at crime intelligence. That was the counter. The whole thing in the media space and the likes about Khumalo and them has always been about crime intelligence. And then there was an arrest or an investigation and arrest of Mr. Mlife that involves the members of the PKTT. And Khumalo is a man in charge of that investigation of the PKTT. So when they saw those within the investigation that this PKTT was causing trouble, the letter of the 31st of December was born. And after realizing after a while that actually PKTT has got no business with this thing, there is another investigation happening within crime intelligence. it was then that they started directing, focusing on those members within crime intelligence. And then there was a convergence between the crime intelligence squad that wants to get rid of him, as well as the criminal underworld using our investigation team that wants to get rid of him. They found a point of convergence to the office of the executive authority of this organization, which is the ministry, through a, I don't know if I should call him a comrade now. He's been disowned. Mr. Brown, a comrade, I'll use the word comrade of Minister Mchunu because that's what he said. I don't know a comrade in something else, not in a political party. They find a convergence, these two. So they had a common enemy. Because this vehicle here is well all machined, the one is crime intelligence. It's got contacts in the media space, it's got contacts, they've got the budget. It became easy for them to spread the fire. And that allows these ones to also benefit from it. So then there was a common interest on both of them. But what is funny is that the leader within crime intelligence and the leader within detectives don't get along. This is a very interesting part. They don't get along. But because they've got a common enemy, they forget about the differences until they deal with this common enemy. So that's a long and short of it. That Khumalo then become a victim as a result to get out of crime intelligence so that he stops these reforms that he's introducing here. And then he stop getting rid of people within crime intelligence because they cannot do without. Their powers are within crime intelligence. If they're out of crime intelligence, they will lose the power. And this side, there's investigation that must be frustrated. If this investigation and those two police officers succumb to the pressure and they stop that investigation and nothing happened, Khumalo was not going to get involved. And if crime intelligence, Khumalo did not touch the people and said, listen, drive the car the way you want to, come to work and do whatever, distribute T-shirts of political parties that were always in police vehicles in however way you want to, visit the building of a political party and walk all the floors of the building however you want to, I'm not going to bother you. Then Khumalo was going to be left alone. His problem was, you don't belong here, I'm sending you somewhere else. That's somewhere else because they need to establish with these ones investigating who's investigating. Then these ones within crime intelligence are the ones that share the information that the people that are investigating you, they are working from that house. And hence, these houses now are in the media. They are exposed by the ones within crime intelligence that wants to fight for the removal of these people.
Based on your evidence that you are putting before us, are you saying to us with this evidence that Minister Mchunu is corrupt?
I wouldn't say corrupt per se, although, Honorable Chair and members, because of what has happened, we are now looking at the trust account that the minister owed. That's how deep we're going to find out what is having a trust account, what monies are in there, how did they come in, how they've been dispersed, because there's a trust account that is on his name and the family that they're operating from. We were not going to get there if we didn't start here. He invited us to use our skills as police officers to keep scrapping. And we're going to scrap until we find gold. We won't stop. So that's what we're busy with now. So until we discover these transactions that are happening in that trust account, then we can come back and pronounce on corruption or not. But until then, we cannot talk about corruption because we don't have anything before us that proves any money movements between him and whoever. Yes, we might say Gerald said it is a money movement that came to our attention already. But for Minister Mchunu, we can't say that. There is a facilitator, which is Mr. Brown. There is a facilitator, which is a businessman in Northwest. We are looking at them and their accounts. What's happening in those accounts is any movement that links back into this trust fund that is owned by the Tuns. And that might benefit the minister in one way or another. So for now, what we are accusing the minister of is the minister's failure to protect the organization, the minister's negligence that allows the rogue people within the organization to do as they please. And that brings us here today. Hence, I said ministers are given the civilian secretariat to help them. So if you don't use that resource, you've got nobody else to blame but yourself. And that resource was not used. Hence, the letters are written by chief of staff to IDEC, and IDEC acts on it. And that just proves that the office of the ministry became dysfunctional. And it became an office that is then used by these criminal people. You tried your best to reach out to the minister for meetings, and he ignores you. Even when he acknowledges your request for a meeting, he still does not honor that meeting. And that left us with no choice to realize that his executive authority has been used to achieve this. That's why I still strongly believe that someone started that letter of the 31st. He might have amended it, the minister, including this and that, but someone started that letter. Perhaps the issues of the border police might have come in by default. That was not the intention. The intention was the PKTT. Maybe then they started adding other things so that it looks like it's covering a variety of things. But the real reason for it might have been something else.
Based on your evidence before us, are you saying that General Sibia is corrupt?
I don't think I've presented evidence before you that I can say General Sibia is corrupt yet. The investigations we have on the other side will prove that there is benefits to General Sibia of illegal means that came to him, directly or indirectly. There's property acquisitions that exist. There's contribution from the underworld into those properties. And many other things that he acquired. The good thing about it is that he has not been working alone. He's been working with police officers. And the nice thing about it is that those police officers, some of those police officers that are close to him, they are the ones that are providing this information. That's why we know about the purchase of properties. We know about the location of properties. We know about the purchases of animals in the farms. We know about the many other vehicles purchased and many other lifestyle things that are there. How and when money is being collected and how the monies are moving from point A to point B. But we have not presented that yet. So we can't say General Sibia is corrupt because we have not presented in a report before yourself about it. But as we put it here in the craft, we are saying he's an enabler of the wrong things that are happening in the organization. And that we have evidence of.
General, on a lighter note, I want to confirm to you that I am looking at you. There's a popular comedian, his name is Paul Pops. He'll explain to you why sometimes it looks like I don't look at you. And so in that way, I want to say, I thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Chair. I am done.
Honorable Sauls, are you done, honorable member?
I am, Chair.
Thank you so much. The next player who has been on the touchline, Honorable Vessels. We are now bringing the super sub, Honorable Vessels.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chairperson, and good evening, General.
Yes, sir.
I am Let me start with the 6th of July. And what I want to reflect on is you've given evidence before us and before the Commission that attests to the systematic rot of the criminal justice system and the South African Police Service in particular, that has been taking place, and those wrongdoings has been taking place for many, many years. You've reflected on wrongdoings that took place in as far back as 2011, 2012, and the previous ministers, previous national commissioners, and so forth. My simple question on that is, why did you never back then, or since then, have a July 6 moment? I understand your evidence and your explanations with regards to the attempts that you made, in particular to the political task team and the involved wrongdoings there prior to the 6th of July press briefing. But with regards to all those other wrongdoings that took place many years ago, why did you never take such a step?
Honorable members, when I was appointed in October or September of 2011, I had came from tactical units. I do not know how much of the honorable members knows about the tactical units that exist in the police, but it's an environment where I spend most of my time where we do not get involved in a lot of talks when you work in that space. You only engage with the commander when he tells you about the targets and the operation you need to conduct. You ask questions to clarify the details about the target. Other than that, you go out there and you execute. The talk within the specialized environment, it's a bullet in a gun in majority of the time. So I was not used to engaging and sitting in boardrooms and talking with politicians about things. It has never been my thing. And here I am as the acting national commissioner that I must suddenly come to parliament and learn to say honorable member. I was not used to it. And have that kind of respect and go and meet with the president, go and meet with the minister, how I interact with them. I had to learn those things. So here I am being confronted with a disciplinary matter that involves a senior officer in the police and a criminal matter that involves the very same senior officer in the police. And you get a letter that, or the senior member that tells you the matter will be withdrawn in court, and you ask the head of the DPCI, he doesn't know. The next day you get that withdrawal of the case. And you say, but NPA always say they prosecute without fear of favor or prejudice. Why did this case end up in court if this prosecutor decided to withdraw it? And the explanation is that, this one who withdraws is a boss of the one that is in court. Therefore, this is where it goes. Then we take this docket, we send it to the Inspector General of Intelligence, who's cited to be the one responsible for this criminal investigation. And Inspector General of Intelligence responded and said, no, they've got no business with this thing, must go back to court. We send this thing back to court, and eventually a final letter comes back again from NPA that says, final decision is taken, decline. This matter must be withdrawn from court. And what you know is that once the NPA take that decision, that means you need to go for a private prosecution. I've not been told that the SCPS have pursued a private investigation in the past. So I did not go to the extent of saying, maybe let's go private prosecution of this person on this one. But on the other side, you have a disciplinary matter that involves the same person. And you send this thing to Inspector General, and you are told by the minister that you must not continue with the disciplinary steps. It is just that one isolated incident of the minister that start creating things. And then one start asking questions and start investigating further and start realizing the same minister is one was presiding over the panel on this. And what is the relationship? And the minister's involvement in this protection of Mkhwanazi comes from here. Comes from a criminal case in any way. There was a criminal case, Mkhwanazi played the part, and there's a reward. That's why I end up here. And at the same time, you have this rogue within crime intelligence, you remove the management, you put a new management, they start investigating. So before you could have a clear picture in front of you what you're dealing with, and then this approach of the minister, then I go to the president and said, I can't stand this. Let me get out of here. And the president take me out. But I think the strategy was not to put me in an environment where I'll allow these investigations to continue. But I must go and sit at home so that I can chill and let everything goes to normal. And that's what exactly happened. I never had an opportunity to challenge this. I was in that office for just a little over half a year. Starting towards the end of the year, there's Christmas, and then January comes, and in June, I end. This one, I'm a veteran senior manager at the police already. And I see the wrong, I understand the process, how it's supposed to be done. A letter comes out on the 2nd of January that talks about my involvement. I try to reach out to establish what's going on. I don't get any answers. And this triggered me to investigate further. So as I investigate, I pick up issues. And I try to reach out to executive authority at the time to say, this is wrong, let's fix it. That's why I even call for meetings with people who are even outside the police to say, Minister, come here, because I want to warn you. You are allowing this one to do this thing and it is wrong. Hey, the minister gave me the audience. The July 6th was not going to happen. Because the minister will give me an audience and at least assisted me to fix it. We'll have fixed it in the police way. Arrest those that should arrest and keep quiet and continue with it. But because there was that ignorance, and you start knocking on other doors and you realize that things seems not to be moving, and you see this plot is thickening on the other side, you are getting information that now we're going to arrest this one, now we're going to arrest that one, and that is done. And you realize that you are losing ground. So what should you do next? You need to counter. And when you are countering, how do you counter this? Devise a plan, devise a strategy of how you're going to deal with it. And one of them is that I think it's time that the citizens must know about what we're doing. And while we are busy in this battle, but let's make them know so that at least the citizens can hold us and everyone accountable for what is happening. Then we can expose what is happening. But us exposing what is happening, we're not going to stop with our investigation plan going forward and our fighting plan going forward. We continue with it. That's why we're busy today.
Thank you, General. As a veteran, do you think your assessment, has the wrongdoing and the rot gotten worse? Is it worse now than it was 10 years ago, a decade ago? Or has there been some improvement?
I think it's worse. Worse in a sense that in the past, the rot that was happening was mainly directed towards political influence. These resources of intelligence were directed towards influencing the political parties to get into offices and then be able to do favors for these members. That's what was done before. But the criminality then cropped in. Criminality influenced by the lifestyle in this country. Back then, you were satisfied with a Nokia cell phone. I'm not saying Nokia is not a good brand, but now you're not satisfied with that. You better get a proper Android phone or an iPhone that will satisfy you. You know, back then you were satisfied by driving a golf vehicle. I'm not saying the golfs are not good nowadays, but the G-Wagon is the vehicle these days. Everyone wants to sit on a G-Wagon. So the moment you change your lifestyle, the more you're going to want money. And the more government makes money available on tenders and people get involved in corruption of tenders, and it allows the police to start investigating these tenders, and these tender bosses paying the police back, and then police turn a blind eye on this criminal investigation, it then allows criminality to continue. So it becomes not political anymore, but criminal benefits that is there. You are no longer doing this thing to make sure that your political party wins elections. You are now doing this thing to make sure that so and so wins a tender, and that tender benefits you in return.
Thank you very much for that. General, the allegations that you made obviously were met, and you alluded to that earlier today, with a lot of rebuttals, attacks, and allegations, counter-allegations. And I want to move towards that direction and reflect on some of this. Now, with regards to one of the allegations being made, I want to ask you, following the 2024 general elections, did you, and that now following or after the new minister, Minister Mchunu, was appointed as Minister of Police, did you have any contact, any communication with the former minister, Minister Bheki Cele?
We are talking after the appointment of the new minister.
Correct.
We had a farewell for the minister, and I think that was done after he was appointed, this one. We had a farewell in Pretoria. There's been many engagement. The only time that the communication between me and the former minister stopped is when, after he had called me to ask me to go and encourage General Khumalo, who is a district commissioner in Zululand, to resign from the ACPS and go and join him in the city, in the province of Gauteng. And when I established as to what was the reason behind that phone call and that request, it got me angry. That's when I stopped talking to him. I cannot remember the date, but before that, I was still talking to him. I never had issues with the minister.
How would you respond to the allegation made that there's still, up until this day, senior ranking police officials or officers that report, so to speak, to former Minister Cele and takes instructions from him?
I will not disagree with that, because there are a lot of police officers that will have enjoyed an opportunity to work with him. There are a lot of police officers that might have benefited in terms of promotion as a result of his influence, maybe, into the organization. So if those police officers still exist that are still engaging with him, I don't see anything wrong with it. He's a person that they were working with. They never had any issues with him. Like I never had issues with him until he started inviting me to participate in the wrong. That's when I started having issues with him. But I still met him after that. He met me at the car wash. And even after that, when I was not talking to him, that's when he confronted me straight to come and talk to me about this. The members that are within the South African Police Service, some of them are family members that are related to the minister. So it would be unfair to expect them not to talk to him, because there's nothing wrong they did. My own members in KZN province, if they talk to the minister about anything else, I will not object to that, because they were working with him. They know him. Many of them were protecting him while he was still a minister. And so they share a lot of things. Besides the fact that the very same section 46 I was referring to of the Police Act allows these members to participate in political parties. And the minister is a politician, a political party member, might still be engaging with some of these police officers on the political space that they meet. So there are many reasons for him to still have contacts in the police.
Can you confirm, General, following the letter by Minister Mchunu on the disbandment of the PKTT, that you did not confide or correspond with former Minister Bheki Cele?
In relation to the disbandment of it? Yes. Not at all. I never spoke about it. I'm glad you're asking that question, because it was perceived out there in the media, and we see with Sibiya's communication to the Deputy Minister here, that the gadget spotted crime intelligence, it was an instruction of the former Minister Cele. This is what is written in black and white. Now I understand why the media was pushing that narrative, because it comes from within the police. But myself, I did not communicate with General Cele about this matter at all. And a matter of fact, I had engaged with some of the people that are not necessarily within the police, but that will know Minister Mchunu very well, to try and influence them to speak to the minister so we can sit up and have a discussion. But that proved fruitless.
Thank you. Yes, that's exactly why I'm putting it to you, because it's out there and I think you should respond to it. And
Yep.
It's good to get the opportunity to rebut that as well.
Thank you.
Then, General, you've spoken a lot in your evidence about a lot of intelligence that you have, information that you have, and you referred earlier today to the fact that there's people in intelligence structures that do confide in you and give you information, and you explained why. But you then also made mention of the breaches that takes place from within crime intelligence, especially to journalists and to members of parliament, which you alluded to, and with a particular goal of spreading misinformation, discreditation, and so forth. And the seriousness of those breaches, especially, and you also later referred to the clearance that classified information is shared and people don't have the vetting and the clearance. But you also yesterday made mention of the fact that you do not have the necessary security clearance because of the problems at that section. Do you not think that the sharing of that information with yourself is also the same type of breach?
Once it's classified and is shared with me, then I'm in position of it's a classified or breach. But the information that I get from the members is plans and strategies that are employed within crime intelligence that are malicious. That's what I get, not the details. For instance, I will not have a vetting profile of a person in crime intelligence, that which is given to someone. I will not have details about the property that was procured that is given out. But the only information I'm going to get is that such an intelligent information was given by so-and-so to this handler, lady, who took this information to this member of parliament. That's a type of information that I collect that comes to my possession. Obviously, the details of those things will end up with the divisional commissioner, and he will share that which is not classified, which we can work on. That's why I said when I presented, there's some of the information here that is classified that I might not be in position of, because I'm not authorized to be in position of. But those that I'm in position of is what I'm authorized to be in position of. So when I mention of the security clearance, it was not a lie. That the processes within crime intelligence is manipulated to such extent. I'll give you an example, is that General Kumalo gets his security clearance sorted out, and then he gets appointed. Immediately after that, they launch an investigation. They go to Inspector General and say, this vetting certificate was not supposed to be issued. It shouldn't have been issued. Let's investigate how it was issued. Then he goes to State Security to conduct another vetting process that side. And he gets awarded a security clearance on the other side. So they still believe that he does not have on this side, as they're pushing the narrative and the Inspector General of Intelligence Investigation, and they get a shock that actually has two. He has another one now granted by State Security. So if they knew about his immediate appointment, they would have frustrated the issuing of the certificate so that he does not get into that office. The people that are that's why you see a lot of these leakages are coming from that vetting office. It's all about the vetting reasons that are going out. So it tells you that that office is compromised in the South African Police Service.
Thank you, General. Then just the Honorable Malema spent time on the allegations that you made with regards to politicians sitting in Parliament. You said that they are involved in syndicates, that there are members involved in syndicates. I just want to reflect on one matter and get clarity on that issue. You then, in your statements to this committee and the statement to the commission, you refer to the two members, Mr. Adams and Ms. Kohler-Barnett. You don't refer to other members, and you answered the Honorable Malema saying that there's investigations taking place with regards to other members. But what I want to check and get clarity on is when you mentioned this on the 6th of July, you said that they are involved in criminal syndicates. When you said that on the 6th of July, were you referring to Mr. Adams and Ms. Kohler Barnard amongst others? Or is it a separate wrongdoing?
Honorable members, I'm not going to call the two members you're referring to in relation to the criminal syndicate because that investigation is sitting in another level. The moment I say they're involved in criminality, they means they have not been charged, then I would be unfair to them to say that. Maybe they will only be known members of parliament that are involved with the criminal syndicate once arrests are made. But then we can be able to talk about it. So for now, the criminal syndicate that is being investigated and the role that these members are playing to allow the frustration of that investigation, it's what made us to flag them. The reforms within crime intelligence that have been introduced and the role that these members are playing to frustrate that process is what makes us to flag them. So, but in terms of their role specific into, or any other member of parliament, into the real syndicate that works within this drug space that you're talking about, I cannot talk about it here in the open meeting because it's something that is running as a counterintelligence investigation that is not within my space.
Thank you. So when you said during the briefing, and it's quoted, it's on page 25 of NSM2, you said that the task team unmasked the syndicate, and the syndicate involves, amongst others, politicians who are currently serving in parliament. You were referring to other members, not those two.
Let me not say those, not those two. Let me say I'm referring to some members of parliament without saying who.
It's a very serious allegation.
Yeah.
I think you understand that.
Yeah, I know.
But thank you for that. Then a quick another issue that you refer in your in NSM3 to the actions that were taken or the concerted campaigns against you. And you reference the IPIT investigation on the Mpangeni matter. It's cited on paragraph 312 of NSM3 with regards to the arrest of Joyce Ndlovu. I just want to check, you are aware, General, that since then the regional commissioner, Kunele, was suspended and is facing very serious allegations. Are you aware of that? Let me first check that.
No, I'm not aware.
He has been suspended actually twice, but is currently suspended. And he's facing allegations of impropriety and misconduct, obstruction, interference, corruption. And so in hindsight, or in light of that, would you have acted differently? Would you consider the whole matter differently with the fact that a national unit became involved and that nothing provincial was alerted to that operation? Maybe because of these serious allegations and also taking the serious nature of the drug syndicates in our correctional facilities into account. Don't you think that was the reasoning for those actions involving Joyce Ndlovu?
Honourable members, my problem with the Mpangeni had nothing to do with an operation. I've said it on the record and I'm saying it again, that despite the fact that those members were deployed for a purpose of RPM, which was their mandate, but when an information of criminality lands on their desk, as police officers, they must act on it. It is expected for them to act on it. I said the information they received might have been correct, that there's drugs in there that have been pushed. I did do my little bit of investigation after that incident to establish why did they choose this one? Why will they accuse her for this? Then I realized there's some relationship with foreign nationals that she has in her family that might have caused such to happen. But obviously, I did not go deeper to investigate what type of relationship. But I know there's some relationship with some people that are not from South Africa, that in that space in the family. But the members might have had a positive information. But when they arrived in the house, they did not find what they were looking for. Hence, my advice to them, get forensic to come there. If there were drugs there, they're going to pick up the residue that will have been left on the floor. That's going to give you an indication that indeed, and then you can interrogate the person further. Look at the cameras around, look at the people who came to establishment and so forth. This is a correctional facility. Anyone enters a gate, the vehicle must be registered and supposed to be searched anyway. Check whether all those things were done so that you can prove indeed that there is something that was happening in that space. Do not just arrest, because we miss the target at times. You're quick to arrest the biggest criminal without collecting information. You rush to arrest. And when you end up in court, you have an egg on your face because you can't prove the case. And the person walks. And the society turns around and look at you as a police and say, but we gave information, you arrest the person, and you let that person walk out tomorrow. It's because you fail as a police officer to tick all the boxes that justifies the presentation of that case in court. So it is that advice that was given. Hence, I am the one that said to them, get forensic to come there and process that crime scene. They were not doing that. They came and they pick up these things and went to a police station to detain a person. And I said, no, you're wrong. It's a crime scene. Get forensic to that crime scene. Check what is happening in that crime scene. You might have missed something. The drugs might have been in that property, in the ceiling board. You didn't go to that ceiling board to check. You ended up here in the carpets and stuff like that. You should have opened the carpets, if there are carpets on the floor, and check whether there's no holes in manholes that are built inside those carpets, if you really want to search. But it looks like they just did a scanning of that building and they left. So I was advising them to do what is right. That is first thing. Secondly, for them to arrest under that circumstances was going to pose a risk as losing a case. Number two, inviting an unnecessary civil claims against the state. So to guard against that, before you do this, gather this information, get forensic to give you the outcome of these pills that you are suspecting to be drugs, because you then have a field training, testing device that they should have had. They did not have it. When they see these pills, they assume it is drugs. They could have tested it on the spot. That first response will tell them that this is drug. Then at least they're 100% sure that we take you in for drugs. For now, they didn't do that. Hence, I invited them to speak to forensic. So it is only that was my recommendations to them, but I still left it to the commander to make a decision. I was more than 200 kilometers away from him.
So you did not instruct them not to arrest her?
Well, I said to them, be careful if you detain the person. Arresting is one thing. But if you enter the name of this person in the detention register, and the person, even if he doesn't sleep in the cell, the mere fact that the name is on the SAP 14 register that says the person is booked into the police station, it's a problem already. That is a basis for civil claim, and we've experienced a lot of them. You will ask the honorable chair and members of the portfolio committee to give you our litigation, our bill that we are paying lawyers for unlawful arrest. And we can't afford to do that negligently. So I was guarding against that as a responsible person in the province. Let's be careful about this. So as a result, they decided not to detain her. Because again, if there was any evidence, she would have been arrested. She was the head of the institution, and I do not believe that she was a flight risk in any way for that. So if there's something within the department that has been found, I do hope and pray is in relation to that which was suspected then. But if it is not, then it's something else, unfortunately. But if it's criminal, You give me a call and I will still process it. The crime is a crime. There's no excuse. But we cannot aggressively treat people bad, even if they're not supposed to be treated bad, because we have information that they are bad.
Thank you very much, General. Last question.
Honorable Vessels, on my
Last question.
benevolence, I will allow you to ask your question in light years. Light years means it's a time
Very quickly.
ahead of a second in speed.
Nanoseconds.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chairperson. Last question is, have you considered, given any consideration to the fact that you might be used as a pawn in some other factional, political, or other battle, and that you are being misused? Have you ever considered this yet? Have you satisfied yourself that it is not the case? Thank you, Chair.
Honorable members, I was clear at the beginning. It never crossed my mind that there can be anyone that is accusing me of playing politics on this. But after we made that address and we started getting a response, and one of the first response came from political parties, Mkhwanazi amongst others, when they started marching. And I did not appreciate that. First, I took it because at the first march, it was a mix of different political parties. But the second march, where they had my photos and everything that was done in Gauteng, I sent a communication to the people of MK. I said, get me out of it. If you want to march for whatever you march for, don't use my face. I don't belong there. And they apologized, they acknowledged. I said, unfortunately, it was too late to tell the other people not to use my face. But I think they stopped after that because I did not want to be associated with it. I was happy with the citizens making noise. Political parties are welcome to make noise. They are members of society as well. But to be used as a face in politics was a problem for me. Since then, what has then happened is people start saying Mkhwanazi for president. I came here yesterday and I said it. I'm a policeman and I know how to be a law enforcement officer, not to be a politician. I've never had a relationship much with politicians. I'm not saying I don't like politicians per se, but the method of operation at times troubles me. That's why I wouldn't want to become one. They arrive in a space where they get to as politicians different than what I do as a policeman. So that's why I said it on record yesterday. And to those that will dream to have a person of my caliber as a head of state, unfortunately, I'm sorry, maybe it will disappoint the society, but I am what I am. And I will do this job until come March next year. If it's done, it's done. And it ends there. So being associated with a specific political party or being used by these vessels, that's why I learned that there was this allegation that we are close to Cele, the very same Cele that I'm branding in front of you now as a person who's got questionable relationship with Matlala. If I was my close associate, I don't think I would be saying that in public. And many other people that people associate with me. To me, you are good or you're bad. It can't be something in between. If I don't know anything wrong that you have done, then you're a good man. But once you cross a line, you'll cross a line and there's no turning back.
And the people that feed you with information, aren't you being misused by them?
Honorable Vessels, we don't have overreach in time. You have exhausted your time, and you were on the benevolence of the chair, and I have been so kind that I even warned you that you are now on borrowed time. May we kindly end it here. I want to apologize to you, General. I could notice that you have already gathered your thoughts on how you should respond. I'm sorry for that.
No problem.
Honorable members, we are going to take the last speaker for this session, and then we break for dinner. And the speaker is Honorable James. Honorable James, you are 10 minutes. Start now.
Thank you, Chair. Also be kind to me. Thank you. General, thank you so much for being here today. I sit here and I thank God that they took your dockets. Because if they didn't take those dockets, we wouldn't have been privy to everything that you have told us. I want to start by referencing your media briefing that you had on the 6th of July. And the one thing that stood out for me, that continues to stand out, that shows me that you are not a politician, that shows your patriotism towards this country, is when you spoke. You didn't say their children, you said our children. When you reflected on the impact of drugs and these drug cartels has had on our communities and on our country, General, you said that the drugs are being distributed, and they are being distributed all over. And you said that as you were engaging these youngsters that contributes to our crime stats, you have realized that it takes courage to kill. It takes courage to murder. And you said, take away the drugs and they will become good citizens. Those were your words. You said, therefore, we need to get rid of drugs. God works in mysterious ways. You said the wrongdoing of General Mchunu, the Pablo Escobar of South Africa, has led us to this. Because Pablo Escobar was a politician that captured the state, and that is where we find ourselves today. A lot of the questions here has been asked. There's nothing left for me to say. But I want to seek clarity with a few things. You said that at the end of the day, after you have exhausted all avenues.
Honorable James, let me warn you, because you are making a statement that your time is running.
Yes, I'm saying, I'm going to my questions now.
That's the belief.
Yeah.
Look, what is going to save you if you go straight to questions? When I come to tell you that your time has run out, it will appear like, but I'm worried that the manner in which time is running, once the sun goes towards setting, time also runs very fast.
Yes, Chair.
So, please, I just want to advise you to use your time effectively.
General, I'm going to get straight to the point, because you said that we need to uncover the rot in South Africa, right? Everything has been asked in terms of the technical questions. All that is unfolding. It is not about that political killing stars team. I want to ask you, number one, you referenced Brian Mkhwanazi as being politically connected. For the sake of the record, to which party was he connected?
It is my belief that when Brian Mkhwanazi came public and he spoke about being a member of the African National Congress, when the Minister of Police said he's his comrade, meaning that he's a member of the African National Congress, from the records we have at hand on our side, we know him as a member, as a person that maybe used to be, maybe of late is no longer, but he used to participate and being a member within that African National Congress.
Thank you, sir. You mentioned that payments were made to the ministers, the ANC ministers' account for the guests to travel. You mentioned January 8th celebration. What is January 8th?
The payments were not made to the minister. The payments were made to the account that Mkhwanazi provided to Matlala in relation to the payment of the transportation accommodation of the guest of the minister to the January 8. January 8 is well-known gathering of the African National Congress that takes place the first week of January in a year. And I think it used to be done on the 8th of January. That's why I adopted the name. Although this was not on the 8th of January, it was the weekend after the 8th.
Thank you. You referenced political involvement by Chief of Staff Nkabinda, right? You've seen him wearing political T-shirts. Of which party?
Of the African National Congress.
Do you believe General Sibiya's appointment was politically driven? And if yes, by which party?
I already know from the records we have at hand that the appointment of General Sibiya might have been done with the omission of some crucial evidence that they were supposed to look at. But the appointment is done by the National Commissioner, and I don't know the National Commission of belonging to a political party, so I cannot associate the appointment of Sibiya with a political party.
I quote, the country, South Africa, will burn, right? As we sit here today, do you believe that our country has been captured? And if so, by which party?
I won't say that the country has been captured by party, but the country has been captured by criminals
By criminals
that are using politicians.
that are using politicians
Yeah.
from which party?
Oh, well, the ones that I know of are from the African National Congress. I don't know if there's others from the other parties.
You mentioned as well, I believe the citizens, the families and children of this country are worth fighting for. What drove you to say those utterances on the 6th of July? You also make mention of a bigger investigation. The bigger investigation here is drugs. Can you elaborate on that? And also when you say that you have done your analysis to show that many of the arrests that are being made, it is as a result. How did you do that analysis?
Honorable members, we as a police on quarterly basis release crime stats. Within our midst, we've got analysts that will conduct analysis about the crime that has happened. For every arrest we make, we conduct an assessment as to why, the question as to why did you do this? What led into this? And especially with the shooting, the majority of shooting incidents we have in KZN in the area of Inand, there's always been that why question. Why these boys do what they do? They're involved in crime, they are killing, they are raping, they're doing all. But what makes them to be like this? Yes, families might not control them, and until we realize that they don't do these things when they're sober, and they do these things when they're under influence. So there is this energy behind them that drives them to do what they do. When they smoke that crack cocaine, they become animals. They become vicious, like a pit bull. They will not feel any pain. They fear nothing. That's what drives them into that. So that's when our conclusion was, this drug changes the behavior of a child, and this child ends up being seen as a bad child. So until we stop what makes the child to behave in this fashion, we're not going to win the war. We'll end up killing everyone that we come across. But we're supposed to actually close the tap here on drugs so that the behavior of the child can change. And there's no need for us to even arrest this person, let alone get involved in shooting incidents. I said it before, that when the police officer is involved in a shooting incident, it's a problem for us as management, because we must send this police officer for counseling. And he's off operation for a long period of time while he's debriefed, while we're getting his mental being to be normal again. Because if we don't do that, it catches up with this police officer later, and it affects him, it affects the family and everyone else. So we don't want to get into that stage of engaging in such confrontations. So that's why we identify that the root causes of our problem, the rest here. We have to do something as a collective on this one. Government must help us also in different departments.
Do you think we have a national crisis at hand?
Yes, we do. We do. Why I say that is because we have only one scanner in the port that takes about 3,000 containers into the country. We scan less than 10% of them as they come in. God knows what in those containers are. Children have been trafficked. Illicit goods are moving into those containers. We only have one scanner that sees what's inside when that truck travels on that road, on that entry.
You think that that is intentional?
Executive must help us. If portfolio committee and everyone else that helps us to say, how are we prioritizing? What is your plan to deal with drugs? What about this? What about that? And where do you allocate your budget? Then we could be talking now. Instead of when we are saying, why are you buying that property? Why are you using the finance to go and invest in that event? Why don't you buy this resource? You have a truck picking up goods here in Cape Town. It travels from Cape Town with a container until it reaches deep in Johannesburg. It passes 10 roadblocks on the road because there's a lock on the back of that container. Doesn't get searched. Nobody opens it. It leaves Cape Town 1,500 kilometers to Johannesburg without being searched. And we don't have means to do it. And we need budget. It doesn't cost a lot of money to buy these scanners, but there's no will to buy them. And nobody pays attention. You talk. Only now that the management of the police is starting a process of procuring it. But we've been talking about this thing for 20 years. It's only now we were starting to do that. When ATTF back in the days would block the freeway, we're going back at the private sector to help us with a breakdown to remove the trucks on the road. We still do today because government doesn't have tow trucks to remove a truck on the road. That's how bad things we have. And you cannot say there's no budget for it. It's us who prioritize it wrong. And when we have to account, those are supposed to hold us account, I think with respect, majority of them don't necessarily know the business we do. That are sitting as parliamentarians that must hold us accountable. If you don't understand the business of the department that you are managing, you take Mkhwanazi, you say he must be a member of parliament and he must hold a department of minerals and energy accountable. I've got no clue what it takes to start a mine. So I want to hold people accountable about the safety and everything in the mine because I have no clue. So bring a member of parliament to be a member of the committee, portfolio committee of police, and he does not know anything about the police. So you won't hold the police accountable because he will ask the wrong questions, not the right questions. And then we get away with, and we look as if we are doing something and yet we're not doing anything.
Thank you, General. Do you want to please explain to us what is the difference for purposes of the record and just to clear it with South Africans as well, the difference between intelligence, the division within SAPS, intelligence and counterintelligence?
The counterintelligence is a section within the division whose job is to look at us and look at the bad things and be able to establish if there's any risk, possible involvement in criminality by some of the officials within the police and other environments. That is counter. So they are proactive in doing things. Intelligence made out of different sections. Like I said, there are analysts, there are those that are giving you information upfront, and they share things with you. And most of the time, counterintelligence dictate things before they happen. They go deeper undercover to pick up things, and they share with you. You will hardly come across a member that works under counterintelligence. It might be some of them that are here amongst us. You just never know. It could be some of the members of parliament here are agents of counterintelligence. They're here listening to who does what, who says what. They walk out here, they go into their hotel, and they go and give them information. That's what counterintelligence does. They operate like that. But they are within counterintelligence.
I want to ask, we know a lot about the composition, the mandate, the motivation, the case types, the dockets, how many there were, about the political killing stars team, right? We don't know much about the counterintelligence team. And that is actually where the focus should be at, because that is where all the chickens are going to come home to roost. What is the key case type that is being registered with that operation?
Counterintelligence, most of the cases they deal with organized crime cases. The unfortunate part, whatever they do gets accounted to the Joint Standing Committee of Intelligence. That's why you will not going to know about it, not unless you're a member of that side. When we have questions about the lack of intelligence, you make an example of about what happened in the rout of 2021. The question should be asked, where was counterintelligence on that? What was their role in preventing such from happening? And did they warn? Because they are supposed to warn. Did they warn us about this? If they did, where's the evidence of that? And what did we do about it? You're going to get that deposited within that structure, because that's where they report, that's where they account. They are totally all working on the covert side of things. That's why you will not know it easily in public on what they do.
Another question. I got the feeling yesterday that you were onto something when you said that the head of the Western Cape, I think it was intelligence, was deployed to France to investigate.
Detectives.
The head of detectives has been deployed to France while the Western Cape is burning. Can you elaborate on that, why you made that comparison?
No, I was just indicating that no matter how much of the workload you have, the organization can still assign another workload to you. It's a common trend. I was responding to why General Khumalo, while having the responsibility of the division, still has these other responsibilities of PKTT and the likes. Until such time the National Commissioner and engaging with him that this is too much to handle, then they will relieve him of those things. But he's still able to do it. It does continue doing it, especially if it's a project thing that is going to be short. I believe the one of France is something that perhaps shouldn't last more than a week, I believe. If it lasts longer, I wouldn't know.
General, since you were operating at national level at some stage, I cannot help but also wonder, if my memory serves me right, I think it was 612 victims formed part of the political killing stars team. Am I right? People that were
The
murdered,
cases,
cases,
yeah, over 600.
over 612
Yes.
murdered, and a task team was established.
No. The task team was handling that volume number of case dockets. The team would have been established with less of the number of.
With less.
Yes.
And
But
the-
as they were working, they were picking up a lot of cases. Some of them are not necessarily political, but parallel to those or ad hoc cases.
Why do you think no task team has been established on the Western Cape when we're dealing with more than 800 murders per month?
I'm not sure if the Portfolio Committee on Police have been briefed about the police interventions in Western Cape Province. In as far as I could remember way back, and I will invite the Portfolio Committee chair to maybe demand the financial expenditure and all the interventions that the police has ever done in the Western Cape for the past 10 years, if you need to. I think Western Cape has benefited the most. When I say Western Cape, maybe I'm speaking the correction, Cape Town, because the deployment has not been the rest of the province. Cape Town has benefited the most in terms of task team deployments to try and deal with this problem of gangs. Perhaps what is a problem is that our strategy to our employing to fight this is not working. We have resources deployed. As I'm talking to you now, there are members that are outside from Western Cape that are here. But what is the success rate of them? And what is the plan of them fighting this crime? Are you observing, is there any feedback coming to the committee with regard to the results that they're achieving? So those are the things that need to be interrogated. But the interventions are done extensively here in Western Cape. I think the two provinces that has benefited in the most with the longest number of deployments has happened is Cape Town and in Northern KZN, Mangu's area. Like Northern KZN have always had deployments, the intervention with the cross-border in terms of vehicle crime. Same here in Cape Town. Those two have benefited the most in the past 10 years, if I can use that period, because I'm privy to such information. But much of the difference that these things are doing, because at the end there's been such difference, but I must say the difference came at a cost, because people that were involved, yes, they were arrested, but there was quite a lot of them that were engaged in a gunfight. Perhaps that helped somehow to minimize the problem in KZN. But in the Western Cape, you arrest these criminals. A youngster that was 10 years old 5 years ago is a gang leader. 5 years later, is part of the problem. And another one gets promoted, another one gets promoted. So that production doesn't stop here in Western Cape. The only problematic thing is the source of firearms that have been used. Another problematic thing, which I said, is the availability of drugs. You have a coastline. I don't know how many vessels are sailing past Western Cape. If we look at the resources we have as a police, at the border police, in terms of the capabilities of patrolling this coastline, it's not sufficient to police this coastline. It ranges from the North Langapan all the way to Southern Cape in George. We're not able to patrol. That's the first problem we have. Our resources on the water is not that strong. That's the first thing. Military is the same thing. And then secondly, we are not able to solve the problem in terms of stop and searches of things that are moving on our streets, so we can be able to identify illicit goods that are there. That's another weakness that we have. And beside the fact that we are not able to trace sometimes the source of these guns. Yes, majority of them are stolen from people who are licensed, but it doesn't end there. There's ammunition that comes with it. We have neighboring countries of late, Namibia, that had lost firearms, state firearms there. Some of those firearms were found in the Western Cape. How they were lost that side, and how did they come in here? It's question marks seems to be asked. When you are told that there are farm licenses that have been issued in CFR in Pretoria that are legally facilitated from Western Cape, Gerald Lincoln, may so rest in peace, worked on such cases in the past. They were one of the senior officers, Gerald Very and amongst them, that were end up painted as bad people because they were fighting these drug issues in the organization. But of course, they might have stepped on other people's toes and they became bad people. So these are the challenges that need to be interrogated as to what makes us to fail as an organization. So if the accounting is done at the national level, not at the provincial level is going to receive what the national level tells them. They are happy with it or not happy with it. Honorable member will end up in a confrontation with the Minister of Police where he shuts him up. That's a result to get. That because the accountability becomes a problem. The communities here expect certain things and those things that's supposed to be delivered are not delivered. And it becomes a problem.
Thank you, General. So basically we are failing because there's no accountability and because of the many blockages.
There are many areas that we really have to sit down when we're doing the strategic planning and need to ask ourselves a question. Where is our weaknesses? You identify the weaknesses. Is a weakness in the accounting side? Is a weakness in the strategy and planning? Is a weakness in resource acquisition? Where is a problem? Or you've implemented all these things, but it is a weakness in the upbringing and the family where people live, the environment where people live that allows such things to happen. It is this parliament that on this legislation that will allow someone to put up a shack anywhere he wants to, and it does not get removed not unless you go to court. And when one shack moves in, another one comes in, another one comes in, none of them are employed. They must survive. And the likelihood is that there's going to be criminality that they're going to do to make them survive. And for those that are earning a living from the very same informal settlement, they become victims of those that are unemployed. So it becomes an environmental area that we need to look at, that the police alone might not solve it. We have to look at what does the legislations that we have allow these things to. Because the number of informal settlements we see nowadays, as compared to the back in the days, you go to the rural areas, the vast of lands that are left untouched, because people have left those lands and went to the city looking for greener pastures, it creates an imbalance in the country. And we see it with the level of crime. All our crimes are centralized in the big cities where people are chasing employment. Johannesburg, Durban, Cape Town. Walk out of that, you're going to find peace.
General, you may be asking, why am I asking all these community-based questions? Because when you said drugs are distributed and they're distributed all over, these cartels are operating, I'm trying to see if there's a link to what is unfolding in our communities. Hence my questions. Does it make sense to you?
Yeah, no, it does.
I also want to say, on the 6th of July, when you made that briefing, took that unprecedented stance, what in the back of your mind, surely you had an objective and you thought that, like I said earlier on, all avenues has failed me. Sitting here today, do you believe that we have taken the right approach in terms of establishing this ad hoc committee as well as the Madlanga Commission? Do you think that we will yield any results favorable to South Africans and basically to the news that you broke?
I believe that, and I know that you took the right choice. The Speaker took the right decision, and the President took the right decision, and that allowed the investigations to continue. We see people now in court being arrested. We see some senior officials within the cluster being suspended, and that allows this investigation to continue. Had that not happened, and I must say again, had it not happened, we would have picked up bodies by now, because the war was imminent within the security people. It was imminent. So to prevent that, that's why we said, let's warn South Africans that when they walk the street and they see a blue on blue, then they must understand why. Because blue on blue should not happen. Because we should be fighting an enemy together. But now blue on blue is imminent, and they must not be surprised to what brings us there. So thanks to that intervention that we didn't have to go there. That's why we have Mkhwanazi today wearing a suit, not camouflage. Because he toned down a bit, because he was already in that combat mode.
Thank you so much, General. I think that's it from my side. Thank you very much.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, Chair.
Yeah, thank you so much, Honorable James. You have to thank me indeed, because I got very worried. General, thank you so much. Honorable members, it's now 18 minutes to 8 o'clock. We are going to break for dinner. We will come back at 8:30. And because today is the day of Honorable Shikele, if you can please allow her to be the first on the queue. Thank you so much. Let's go and enjoy our dinner.